What if the business you're working so hard to build is the very thing keeping you stuck?
I have clients that I work with that have been in business at $1 million or $2 million for 25 years, but they keep hovering in this little range.
Because a lot of people don't fail from a lack of effort. They fail because they can never build the structure that actually allows them to step out, grow, and scale.
I'm falling asleep on my computer keyboard. My wife's thinking that I didn't make it home from work last night because I'm at the office just passed out on the desk. You get a really good secretary for $20 an hour and you'll probably 2.5 times your business in the next 90 days. 2 years before that, I was in jail and then rehab. You are in the way. And once you get out of your way, you'll realize just how easy you can do it again. And I figured out with his help what lane I did the best work in. I freaking stayed in that lane.
Welcome to another episode of the Starter Girlz Podcast, where girls isn't about gender, it's about grit. We celebrate the dreamers, the builders, and the difference makers bold enough to start. I'm your host, Jennifer Loehding, and wherever you are tuning in today, we are so glad to have you. All right, well, another episode. Here we have another awesome guest. We're meeting for the first time. Super excited to chat with him today. Let's open up with this. What if the business you're working so hard to build is the very thing keeping you stuck? Because a lot of people don't fail from a lack of effort. They fail because they can never build the structure that actually allows them to step out, grow, and scale. And so my guest today knows a little bit about that. We're going to get to hear from him today, but you know the drill. Before I can welcome him on, we do need to do a quick shout out to our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Productions. Need to add excitement to your YouTube videos or some expert hands for editing? Look no further. Walt Mills is the solution you've been searching for. Walt is not only your go-to guy for spicing up content, he's the force behind a thriving film production company with numerous titles in the pipeline. Always on the lookout for raw talent, Walt is eager to collaborate on film and internet productions. With a background deeply rooted in entertainment and promotion, Walt Mills leverages years of skills to give you the spotlight you deserve. Want to learn more about Walt and his work? Head on over to waltmillsproductions.net and let your content shine. Hey, you're here. So first of all, thanks for tuning in today. And since you're already here, you're probably going to want more of this. So make sure you check out startergirlz.com. That's where you can catch up on any episodes you may have missed. Get signed up for our newsletter so you can stay in the loop on everything we've got going on. And if you're looking to go a little deeper, you can also check out our Starter Girlz Insider community. That's where we take these conversations beyond the podcast with tools, workshops, and real conversation so you can take what you're learning and actually start applying it. So as I always say, head on over to startergirlz.com and do your thing. All right. So my guest today, Justin Lund, who works with trades and services-based business owners, helping them build businesses that actually scale instead of ones that trap them. That sounds so good. All right. After building, breaking, rebuilding, and eventually exiting multiple companies, Justin realized something important. Most business owners don't struggle because they lack drive. They struggle because they're stuck inside the businesses that they have created. And so I'm just going to stop right there because I'm going to let Justin do some talking. I don't want to say any more right now at this point. But Justin, welcome to the show. We are so excited to have you here today.
Jennifer, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It's going to be fun. All right. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to open this up because I want to understand exactly what you do. And I'm sure my audience is like, what is it that you do? So tell us a little bit about what you do to help your clients. We'll start there and then we're going to kind of backpedal to how you got here.
Yeah, I think, and thanks for the introduction there. That kind of gets begins to paint a good picture for where I like to spend my time. And the impetus of that is that a lot of people are building a business because of something that they had as a passion, right? There's a skill that's involved. Some people it's baking cookies. Some people it's pulling wire through 2x4s and making houses light up and buildings and so forth. So regardless of what that business is, in services typically there's some traditional typical patterns that I see that present themselves usually between $300,000 and $400,000 up to $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 in range. And that's where you've proven that you can make the business work. It's viable. You've got customers. You know how to take care of the customers. But now you start to feel some of the weight that comes with that. Maybe a guy I was talking to yesterday, for instance, was DMing me on Instagram, and he's saying that I do all my quotes on Saturday and Sunday. And so when somebody calls me on Monday, I got to wait and I lose the job because I can't get to quotes until Saturday and Sunday. So this thing that in his case, he started because of a skill set that he had and decided, I'm going to my own. I'm going to do this myself. Now it's grown into this thing that is hard to control, even though at his craft, at that skill, he's still very skilled, very one of the best. Yeah. But when you start to hit $500,000 in revenue, that's relative, it shows up all over the place, but that's a common pattern. There are other extraneous sort of pressures that kind of come bearing in on the founder, the startup, the person that started the business. And those often have nothing to do with how well you can bake a cookie or if you can plumb the house, right? They're different things. And that's where I like to jump in and show them that there's a better way. Now, depending on when I interact with somebody, if they're just feeling this pressure, which is rare. Most people feel it for a long time before they actually start working out to try to find some kind of different solution. But in the beginning, it's a little easier to correct because the habits haven't really sunk in, and I have clients that I work with that have been in business at $1 million or $2 million for 25 years, but they keep hovering in this little range where they won't go too low, but they never get too high. And it's like it's thermostat where they feel comfortable in between. And as soon as the revenue goes to a certain point, they scramble and they get into marketing and sales, and then they kind of pull up and then it tanks down again. And that's the pattern.
Yeah, it's like when you literally say they're living in their business, it's at probably, some of it's at, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about this because to me, this sounds like a delegation kind of thing, right? Like getting somebody to help you step in. Yeah. And even on a small scale, it's funny because I was just having this conversation with, I don't know who it was, but recently, even on my podcast, and this is not anything like an income thing or anything like that, but just the fact that time is money, right? And when you spend a lot of time doing bottleneck things or things that are not really you maybe you do enjoy them, but you got other things you need to be working on that actually bring in the money. You're spending your time in the wrong places, and it can become really a bottleneck and ineffective, And Absolutely. So I was talking about that. I'm like, sometimes it's like you wage that war of, is it easier to train somebody and get them to do it and give it out, And I imagine at that place when you need to start divvying some things out and getting some help, because then you're just not being effective at that point. So
absolutely, totally.
I get it. I think it's funny because even when I was in Mary Kay, we weren't doing those kind of business. Now, there are women in those very top positions that are bringing in quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
But even as a very new business owner, when we were training, I was in leadership and we were training those new people to come in. We were talking about those things like not, do what you got to do in the beginning. Like, for instance, like learn how to do your taxes. But you don't need to be doing your taxes every year. Get your tax accountant to do your taxes. Yeah. It was things like that, delegating, as trivial as it sounds, but it was stuff like that because they wouldn't want to pay like the babysitter, or they wouldn't want to get the person to do this. They want to do every bit of it, and then they can't do it all. Like they're spread thin and can't,
Yeah, for sure. So, and so those are the things that become habits that if you hold on to them too long, after 5 years, you have a really hard time letting go of even the most mundane, simple, basic thing. Because you've developed some control freak sort of tendencies that
I like that control freak. It's exactly what it is. It's control. You're going to laugh because I just got through taking this. Because a lot of the work I do is in the personal development space. And I just finished taking this program with Shirzad Shameen. He's I think a Stanford lecturer. It's a lot of positive intelligence stuff, but it's so funny because it's like the saboteurs, and I can't remember. There's like a bunch of them. But like my number one was like hypervigilance, and then it was the stick. I think it was the controller, and then the stickler, meaning like I am self-disciplined, very structured. Like I like things done right. I don't like sloppy work, and so you can imagine
where I might be one of those pain in the butt clients because I'm like, dude, I got to get somebody to do this. And I don't like the way they're doing it, you know? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you are so right about that. Because once things get set in place, I mean, even just yesterday, I was thinking about something. I'm like, I really need to let somebody take this piece over, this part of my
Mhm.
work, because it consumes me. And then I'm like, in my head, I'm going, Justin, but then I got to train them because I know how I'm going to want it done. And if they don't
Yeah.
do it the way I do it, I'm going to be mad, you know? And it's just that letting go.
Yeah.
And so you're right about all of that. So what's this process look like when somebody, when they come to you, like, how does all this work for a brand new client coming in?
Well, it depends on where they're at and what type of business they're in, but there's definitely some
Okay.
common threads. The first thing is to see where the time goes. What is your time? Where are there things that are sucking up some of your attention and your focus
Okay.
that you're unaware of? So let's bring some awareness and shine some light on things. That's typically the first step.
Okay.
And there's a process, Jennifer, as you mentioned, some of those things that you're aware of with yourself. And that's what a lot of people skip is, and this is something that a mentor taught me about 25 years ago, I think, where I was what I just described. I started a service business, hustle, grind, wear every hat. Sunday, I'm invoicing and billing and I'm in QuickBooks. I
Yeah.
should never be in QuickBooks. I don't belong there at all. But that's
I
what I
mean,
did all
there,
day Sunday, every Sunday. And I'm
Yeah.
doing all the stuff. And then I had the good fortune to meet with somebody that was way further up that mountain than me. I mean,
Okay.
tens of millions of dollars, dozens of companies, hundreds of employees. And I called him one day, almost just exasperated because I reached a point where to me, it was enough. I was proud of myself for what I had achieved. I was living a decent, comfortable lifestyle. I was bringing in a good 6-figure income, net operating
Yeah.
income. And I had a call with a client earlier that week where they said, if I wasn't going to keep going and growing at that pace that I had for the last year, for the next 2 or 3 years, they were going to immediately find somebody else. And I just thought,
Okay.
I'm falling asleep on my computer keyboard. My wife's thinking that I didn't make it home from work last night because I'm at the office, just passed out on the desk. Yeah. And I realized that there was no more hustle left. I couldn't just work a little bit more. I was on empty. And so that's why I made that call to this guy that I knew and said, I just don't know what to do. And he said, well, how about I take you to lunch and we talk about it? I said, sure. When could you, when would that work? I was like, how about now? And I just remember him saying, how about now? When I called him out of the blue in the middle of the week. And I
Yeah.
thought, how the hell does this guy who's worth so much, how can he just leave now?
Right.
It's on his radar. And then we went and had lunch and he just scribbled on the back of a napkin a couple ideas and some things. And I was like, okay, I think that makes sense. And then I gave him all my limiting beliefs and all the reasons that I
Yep.
thought it wouldn't work. And then he
Yep.
proceeded to show me over the next few months exactly how wrong I was. And it was phenomenal. I mean, and we can get into what some of those things were.
Yeah, I'm
and
curious.
how
Yeah, I think our listeners would like to hear some of that because a lot of these people are business owners that are tuning in, and I imagine that some of them are in these places where they're like they're in their business way too much and they want to get out and grow.
Yeah, so I guess the biggest takeaway that I took from that meeting that continues actually today to affect my
Yeah.
life and many of my clients and through our content is that there is a process to building a business, and that word delegation that you used,
Yeah.
there's a process to that too. And I just thought it was find somebody that can come in and help. And
Yeah.
it's not.
Right.
There's a sequence to it,
Okay.
and programmers in software, I've had a few software companies. I'm not a programmer, but I've become familiar with their language.
Yeah.
There's a syntax or a sequence to the way that code has to be deployed and executed. And the code can be right, but if you take this line down here and you put it up here, it's not going to work. Nothing will work. And that's exactly what a lot of people do. Like the guy that I was talking to yesterday runs a tree service business. He's got a few guys out in the field. He's busy. He gets his quotes done on Saturdays and Sundays. And to him, there's only one solution, and that's I need a foreman to be on these jobs because nobody sees the jobs through right the way I do. Okay, that's one way to look at it, but there's maybe 1,000 others. And I would say I know there's one that's right, that's more right than the others. Now, you might find it a foreman that is really good, but the odds are really small. And
Yeah.
so this is kind of the reason that I've learned since that meeting with my mentor 25 years ago, is that as entrepreneurs, we are problem solvers. Like
Right.
whether we're aspiring to be one or we've been into business 5 years, we get up and we jump out into the unknown with no playbook, no instructions. We're like, we just got
Ring for
yeah. And so that is what it's that trait that gives us success in the beginning and maybe even throughout our whole journey.
Right.
But that is the same trait that when we look to other humans or when we look to delegate, when we look to systematize things in our business, it is not going to serve us well because somebody walks through the door that's for like an interview, a candidate. We start looking at how to make it right. We put lipstick on the pig. We look at everything that's going to be, like all those things. We try to just polish it up. Like, it's great. And there's a system for doing that. There's a process, but most importantly, there's a sequence. And if you start in the right order, so back to my friend who's cutting trees down and doing tree removal and all this stuff, I would not start with a foreman because that's I don't know how many tree service foremen there are in the country, but I bet it's not like millions,
Yeah.
But are there lots of people that could do QuickBooks, that could answer the phone, that was the next best, like as he's telling me all the problems with his business, he's like, I'm missing out on, he said, $175,000 a year of revenue.
Things that make the money. Yes.
That he could make more of.
Yes.
Yeah. He had somebody, like, if he could just take the calls and get the quotes out. And so his brain, he sees this as, I need a foreman that's as good as me. Otherwise I can't grow. And in my brain, I'm saying, you get a really good secretary for $20 an hour and you'll probably 2.5 times your business in the next 90 days.
That's what I would be thinking too, because I feel like that's sort of, it's not, I don't want to use the word minutia because it's not the best word, but it is the stuff that he's probably not, would find somebody better than him to do that phone work and those quotes for him. You know what I mean? And then he could put where his skill actually is in the right place. You're right. I think a lot of times, because I'm thinking about like even people I've worked with and on a different level, it's like they get hung up on one way that it needs to be done. And you're like, but look at it like this. I mean, because to me, that would be a no-brainer. That would be like, I would be like, if I could get to the person that could do all that other stuff like I don't like to do, that I'm not probably, I mean, I could do it. I'm okay. It's kind of like me doing freaking edits on this podcast. I can do them. I'm actually quite good at them, but it just, I have gotten where I could be a little faster, but really that's not where my best use of my time is doing the edits. This is where I'm a forward facing person. So
so it comes down, Jennifer, to your leverage, right? Like I have the same amount of time that you have in a day.
Right.
You have the same amount of time that Oprah has in a day, and Oprah has the same amount of time as Elon Musk.
Right.
But if you take that sample size of that group of people, some of them have learned how to leverage that time for bigger, better, larger results that are a little bit kind of the outliers. So that's more of the example that I would want to look at it. Like if I'm looking to be more efficient, if I want to grow the business, or maybe I don't want to grow the business, maybe I just need to get to where I don't feel trapped by it. Maybe I want to just go to the freaking Little League game and actually not have my phone blowing up the whole time that I'm there. Then I want to figure out how to get more leverage. So whether that's editing videos, whether it's, whatever it is, where can you leverage that time to get more of it so that you can live more of the life that you want? And that's where I really like to hone in on focus with. So if we go back to my tree cutting friend, see in his world and this reality that he's created for himself, if he doesn't find the right person, then the wrong person goes out to the customer. The wrong person cutting down a 150-year-old tree incorrectly is going to have massive consequences that are irreparable, right?
Right.
So here's what I would tell everybody. if you hire somebody and they send out the wrong invoice or they answer the phone incorrectly and they piss off one customer, one prospect, not irreparable, right? So we almost create these scenarios where it's like, if I don't find the right person, I can't grow. It's impossible. I've been looking for the right person for the last 6 months. I'm like, well, it's because you're looking to fill the wrong role first.
Yeah.
If you work at the right role, not only will you get a little of your time back to go do quotes on Wednesday and Saturday, but you'll also get better at dealing with other human beings. And as you do that and you learn the skills of delegation, of creating systems, of inspecting the things you expect from other people, all of a sudden you become a better leader. And that's what it's kind of like my little sneaky trick. What I work with people is I help them become a better version of themselves so that they can lead other people better.
Yeah.
Because it's the guy that starts an HVAC company and has been doing it for 20 years and is creating a living for him and 20 other families that work for him. He's still really good at HVAC, but he's never thought and had the realization that I need to become a leader of people. Like, for me to go to a $10 million company, I got to figure out how to lead, how to motivate, how to inspire people, and how to find and attract the right ones to build the culture that will actually take us to the next level. So that seems like a tall order, but sometimes it's actually not. If you start hiring the right way, you get some reps in and you climb this, I call it a pyramid, like a priority pyramid.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you because I think that leadership comes through that. I mean, this is stuff that I talk to with my people on a different, I probably deal more with creators, I feel like, but it is the same thing because I think when you can't, it's hard to go to somebody and say, I'm teaching you leadership because most people don't think they need it. They think they got it, but they don't have it.
Yeah.
And you have to, it's kind of the peripheral, what comes when they're doing all the growth over here, because in order to grow the business, they got to grow themselves. You can't grow the business unless you're growing yourself. And they don't know that that's happening because to you, they're coming and saying, I'm stuck. I need my business to grow. They don't know that the byproduct or that peripheral that we're talking about, they're going to become better leaders. And that ultimately it's going to happen. It can't not happen, Right. And so it is so true. And I think you're right. And so much of what we do in business really is it are people things. I mean that we need to be good at navigating conversations and understanding people. And, and it's so funny you're talking about this whole, because I'm laughing about this right now because I have this other side business that is a pet sitting business. And I have sitters. They're not employed, they're a contract right now, but I have sitters. Okay. And we're growing and we just started this. So we're in the brand new, but I'm at the phase where I'm like, okay, I am going to need somebody to handle the payroll for these freaking sitters. I mean, I love my sitters. Somebody's got to take this over because I'm getting tired of having to worry about this. And number two, I need somebody to coordinate the sitters and the clients because that right there is driving me crazy. I mean, it's like phone call here, phone call here, phone call here. What time are you? I'm like, I'm already in my head going, we've got to get this to a place where I can get somebody to manage all that. Like I need a person, an assistant or somebody to take that over. I don't mind going and doing some of the sittings and meeting the client. Like I'm the forward. I don't want to be back here in the minutia. I don't want that part. And so my brain is already at that, even on a small scale, already at that space where I'm like, I got to grow myself out of this role right here because I want out of it right now. Like I want out.
Yep. Well, see, you're thinking about the right roles, I think, Jennifer. And that's what's important is that most people in feeling that initial pressure, they start jumping to, I need to hire, and there's, maybe it's a videographer, or I need to hire content that I need to do. And so they jump way ahead of the process. Our pre-cutting friend, like he's talking about somebody who's very skilled, very technical, very capable, lots of years of experience. So he's jumping up to the top where a mistake in that hire, first of all, that hire costs you a lot more money.
Yes. Yeah.
So you not having experience running people like that, in his case, if he doesn't have experience, then you may have 6 months of payroll to somebody that's getting paid six figures, right? Now you're out $60,000, $70,000 before you recognize that didn't work, So you're thinking about it the right way with this, like there's some administrative stuff over here that I can grow this business bigger if I get the administrative stuff off of my plate. And that's
they're kind of, what's that saying? They put the the cart before the horse or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Like, is that what it is? We're like,
Yeah.
we're focusing in the wrong.
Yep.
It's kind of like, I'm laughing. I mean, I know these are different stories, but I think about these stories like when
They're
you know,
totally
when
the
I've
same.
dealt with people over
Yeah.
flyers and stuff, and they're getting hung up on the website and I'm like, you're way ahead of the game. I mean, we need all that, but really you're doing a local business. And yes, you do need a website. I'm not arguing about that, but you're going to be more way effective if you get out there, start talking to people and you actually introduce and they get to meet you and know who you are, because a website, they're going to see a website is a website is a website. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, like, it's like, we're always thinking like, I don't know. And maybe that's because I managed teams for so long. I kind of, you know, understood that,
Yeah.
got some of that in my head, you know, but yes, I am very much in that place of, look, I'm all about how can I get the person that can do the thing that is not, I need it to be done, but it's not generating my income, because I know where I'm the most effective and where I need to be. And somebody is not going to be out promoting Jennifer. Jennifer can promote Jennifer herself. I don't need somebody to go
Yeah.
pretend to be
Yeah.
me. But I do not like doing all that other stuff over there. I mean, like,
There
again,
might be it. And so to follow that process, well, first of all, back to your comment there, I think that sometimes when we get hung up on the websites and the
Yeah.
font colors and the logos, those are some of our internal limiting beliefs that are coming up to the surface. that are just,
perfectionism is
yeah,
exactly what it
these
is, Justin.
saboteur, what you're talking about, probably.
I'm a victim of it. I know
Yeah.
what it is.
For sure. That keeps us from actually dealing with the work that could prove
Right.
whether or not we have a viable business, or,
Yeah.
you know, that would show us whether or not we're a success or a failure. And maybe as a person, at least that inner voice tries to convince us of.
Right.
But when it comes to your Jennifer promoting Jennifer, there might be a time when you get high enough up that, again, my pyramid, I call it like a
Right.
pyramid.
Right.
Up at the top is marketing and leadership, you know, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
where sales, marketing, leadership, those are some of the last roles that you delegate. But there could be a firm
Right.
or a person or a publicist that has a lot more experience where you
Oh, I
maybe
agree. Yeah.
delegate
That's
that.
the other goal.
But that's down the road. First of
Yeah.
all, you get to the
That's
point where,
that's the next one. We're not there yet where I want it, where we're there yet. But yes, exactly. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have no problem. I think, and I will tell you on that perfectionism thing, like, time limits are really good. If for anybody listening, if that is a big thing for them, because I realized when I was building out that quiz that I put on Starter Girlz, I was spending a lot of time doing something. I finally was like, Jennifer, you've looked at this for a while now. Hire I just got somebody. I was like, Upwork, where is somebody that can finish putting this thing
Yeah.
together? I will pay them, just finish it.
Yeah.
So yes,
Right.
time limits are very good on that. And I agree with you. A lot of this stuff is really limiting beliefs. It's these systems in our head and that patterns we've created. And you're right. The longer they stay in place, the harder they are to reverse.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
good stuff. Good stuff. So walk us through a little bit the background on this, because I mean, were you working in corporate before you built? I know you've been doing this for a while. So at any point, did you work corporate? Did you just go straight into the business? Tell us a little bit about the background. Because I know
Yeah.
you've got a story too.
Yeah. So no, I've never been really in corporate. I was in a sales job that
Okay.
putting myself through college in a sales
Gotcha.
career. And I like that because I've always been into the Tony Robbins and Zig Ziglar kind of stuff that I got to use that as my sales pitch. So it was
Sure.
pretty much like I'd listen to these tapes and read these books and then just kind of regurgitate what I was saying on a sales
Yeah.
call.
Yeah.
So that was a fun job for me through school, but it was a toxic environment. I got into some drug use there, and
Okay.
and it was the typical kind of Wolf of Wall Street sort of atmosphere, right? Where
Yeah.
a lot of high paid people making really big commission checks and blowing it all on drugs and cars and things like that. Well, I had just gotten married, so I wasn't blowing quite as much of that, but I did
Yeah.
fall into some of the drug use, and I got hooked on pain pills. And that, trying to start a family, being addicted to this
Sure.
substance, which I thought was like the most benign of everything going
Right.
on in the sales floor area with all the wild, crazy partying that some of those guys were doing. But the addiction part of that is it's so gripping and just a real bad thing that I would not recommend to anybody. So that was kind of my big sticking point there in my early 20s, mid 20s, as I was just getting married. I had 2 kids at the time, got arrested and went into drug rehab as a result to try
Gotcha.
to hopefully not go to long-term jail for this possession
Gotcha.
of drugs.
Gotcha.
Um, and it was there that I finally started realizing like all these little side gigs, all the side hustles and things that I was doing were
Yeah.
just trying to mask the fact that I wasn't really putting something, I wasn't being focused. And a lot of it was where I learned about these limiting beliefs and some of these saboteurs that come up. Like if I stayed busy and distracted with this and always had a reason why
Right.
that gig didn't work,
You didn't have
that
to
did,
deal with the other.
then I didn't
Yeah.
have to deal with the fact that I was a drug addict and I was being a terrible father and a really bad husband and all these other things that were probably more important. So getting some clarity there and coming out of that situation, I learned how to begin to eliminate some of like, I'm doing this because I kind of got some blinders on where the distractions just became, I learned there the skills, how to say no to them because you need to, because
Right.
I'm on drugs. I got to figure out how to say no to things
Yeah.
and how to change my environment and all that. Once out of there, like things took off. I realized what was making me tick before, and I started to get some clarity and some, all that motivation and everything that just seemed like chaos in my past really started to align. And as it lined up, I started to build a business on my own. And it started out slow. I lived in my mother's house. I slept on her floor as a married man with my wife and 2 children.
Yeah.
And within a year and a half, I had generated a 7-figure business. And another year later, I was at $6 or $7 million and then just continued to climb. And again, it was not because of I did get clear and I learned how to take some of these distractions and bring them into my core path. And that was the key. That was one of the key things that started, that lit that fuse. And then from there, it was learning from people ahead of me. I told you the mentor that I called.
Right.
I wouldn't have figured that out. I mean, I was about to do the same things that everybody else does. I was thinking, I need somebody to help with marketing, and I need somebody to build websites, and I need somebody. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, sure. But first, let's do this first. Let's just see. You have some special gifts." And that's what he taught me, what my time was actually worth, and what some of those skills that I was bringing that I didn't recognize them as really important skills, but he pointed out things like, look how good you are with people. Like your clients, you are taking care. I don't think you should ever hire someone for the foreseeable future to deal with your clients besides you. What you should do is hire everybody else so that the only thing you can do is deal with clients.
Yeah.
And that piece of advice I built into a framework and a structure that I now coach and teach people. But what it allowed me to do is it changed my life. I told you, I was falling asleep on the computer keyboard. I was at work all of the time.
Yeah.
I went to just flying first class all over the world and getting new clients and taking them out for really expensive meals and then landing a new contract that was worth another $5 million a year. And then doing that again the next month and then doing that again the next month. So my growth was unbelievable. It really boils down to this. I figured out with his help what lane I did the best work in.
Right.
Freaking stayed in that lane.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. That's the best advice out of the whole thing. Just stay in your lane, right? Figure out your lane and stay in it.
It is.
Oh my gosh. No, this is so good. This story is so good. And you know what? It's like when you're talking about like the people, I mean, you figured that out because that's where your talents are. And when you're in your talents, you're not going to go wrong. I mean, if you are in a place where you're utilizing your gifts and your strengths, that's where you're going to be the most effective, right? And so it just goes to show. And that's why I was saying the same thing. I have a lot, I learned quickly. So I have a lot of talents. I mean, I can do a lot of different things, but the problem is that there are certain things that I'm really good at. And one of those is probably like you, it's being around the people and having the conversations and closing and selling and doing those kinds of things. I can do that other stuff. that's just not my favorite stuff. And it's not the stuff that I shine in. So I agree with you. And I think if anything to take away from this is it's the importance, I think, of really honing in on those strengths where you are great and then mastering those belief systems that you referenced several times, those limiting beliefs, because those are the things that look at that and go, nah, you shouldn't be doing that. You need to be doing this, because that reptilian brain likes to justify everything and, say,
Yeah,
no, we
sure.
don't have the money to do that. So we're going to do this instead or whatever, or you need that, and
So
so I think
I've
this
got
is,
to show you.
yeah, this is all
On my
good.
desk is
What you got?
this.
Oh, I like
Okay.
it.
I keep this here as a constant reminder because
Yeah.
while I do believe that staying in your lane is critical, and if you
Right.
learn how to do that
Yeah.
and you learn the skills to get the other stuff largely off of your plate, you will
Yeah.
succeed. A lot of people think it's going to take a long time. I mean, Jennifer, I was grinding it out for almost 2 years to get to six figures. And it was a $250,000. It was,
Okay.
I thought, very healthy six figures. I was ecstatic to be in that. I mean,
Yeah.
just think of that. 2 years before that, I was in jail and then
Right,
rehab.
right.
And I'm out
And
making
then
250, and I'm like, this is awesome, man.
Yeah, you're like, yeah.
Within
That's
a
great.
year, in just a few months, I'd crossed the 7-figure mark. And then after that, it was
Wow.
9 months. The next 9 months of that year, we crossed $1 million in, I think it was at the end of March, right about this time of year, end of March,
Okay.
beginning of April. And I
Yeah.
remember they came in to me, my mentor with an accountant came in and said, I just want to show you your financials. You're officially a millionaire. And I was
You had
like,
no
"Wait,
idea
what?
either, did you?
Where,
Like,
yeah. And I said, here's your P&L. Take a look at everything. And then they kind of just
Yeah.
pointed out a few things and like 1 million something $1,000. I'm like, whoa, that's unbelievable. And then he said something that
Wow.
I've never forgotten. He said, now watch out. Your first one is always the hardest to make. The next
Yeah.
one, they're going to just fly by.
Mm.
We made the second $1 million in about 60 more days. And by the end of
Oh
that
my
year,
goodness.
I believe it was, I can't remember exactly, it was $4 or $5 million of net operating income for the year. So from passing my first one, which took years and years to build up to that point, then it
Right.
just shot off.
Then it just shot up. Yeah.
And a lot of people have this limiting belief that it is going to take a long time. And I don't want to confuse it. I'm not saying that it's just easy,
Right.
but some of those blockers, and the reason that he told me that, he followed up with, you are in the way. And once
Yeah.
you get out of your way,
Right.
you'll realize just how easy you can do it again and again and again and again. And that
Yeah.
really hit home and landed for me. And that's what it came down to, is me staying in my lane. Now, the reason I brought up the yin and the yang is because I learned a lesson shortly after that there's also this other part that there's a balance. Like life is full of dichotomy, like these
Right.
two black and white contrast choices.
Mm-hmm.
And on the one, I needed to learn how to stay in my lane and not try to control everything.
Right.
But then on the other, I needed to learn skills in departments that I had no skills in.
Right.
One of those being accounting. They had to show me on the P&L,
Yeah.
like, this is why it's here and this. And so now I have simple systems that I deploy in those other parts of life that
Yeah.
help me to slowly raise the needle so that I'm not just thinking like, okay, I'm doing
Right,
really
you're in
good.
the
I'm
dark
staying in my
about the
lane,
other.
and I
Yeah.
hope the money's going to be okay. I hope taxes get filed.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to be no, and that's why I was saying, I think I mentioned at the very beginning when we were talking about the taxes, when the guy was like, learn how to do your taxes so you know the questions to ask and what to
Yeah.
look for. You're not blind and being like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to be looking for, right?
Yeah.
And then, but then you let somebody do them and they can bring them to you. You don't have to spend the needless
sure.
hours working on that stuff if you're better off in the field. I guess if you're an accountant, that's your job, then maybe that's different. But
Yeah, that's
if you're
different. But
doing what you're
otherwise,
doing,
for sure.
no, you don't need to be sitting there doing that. You just need to know what to look for
Yeah.
and what questions to ask, And-
Anybody running a business needs to know about numbers because that's what
Right.
the business ultimately boils down to. But so many people just ignore it and kind of push it to the side.
yeah.
And don't use anything we're talking about here today, listeners, to say like, oh, I'm just staying in my lane. No, because one of the things that I would put in place working with you would be, or if you go watch my content on Instagram or anywhere else, is have a system for your numbers. Because I know if you're an entrepreneur, your numbers are
Yeah.
probably not your favorite thing to spend your time in,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
get that. But I have a simple system. I've been using it for the last 15 years, and it's 4 calls with my CPA every year. So at the beginning of the year, we book them out and we just get them on the calendar and they're there. So now I know anytime I have a question about taxes or this or that, I have a Google Doc attached to the meeting and I can go and I can drop it in there. And so when I call them, I have an agenda to talk about. some of the coolest stuff has happened just because I have those meetings. And I often show up to those meetings with zero things to talk about.
Yeah.
But
Right.
it's there. I call them. We get on the
Yeah.
phone. One time I was telling them about my wife running our expedition off of the road. Like it just snowed a little bit. We were in New England and the expedition slides off the road. I'm
Okay.
turning in the lease the following day. And she does,
Oh, wow.
it causes like $18,000 of damage.
Yeah.
Well, I'm telling him the story, just lamenting like this situation that I've just had. I'm like, can you believe this shit, Paul? Oh my gosh. And he's like,
Yeah.
hold on. Didn't you lease that from this company? And isn't this the one that you were going to? I ended up getting a new truck because he told me, hurry. It was the end of the year. He's like, hurry and get a new truck before the end of the year. You can accelerate the depreciation. I wrote off like $78,000 for a new F-150 and it saved me so many dollars in
Okay.
taxes that year just
Yeah.
because I had a call scheduled on the books. I wouldn't have thought of anything. I was pissed if anything, right? And
Yeah.
he hears that through a different lens
Right.
because that's his job. So a lot of people go to their accountant thinking, no, I don't really know why I pay them. They don't really have a lot of, but they have no context to their life. And that's why I have those 4 calls, 1 per quarter, not around tax deadline time, after their busy times.
Right.
So that he feels just like he can kick his feet up on the desk and chat with me and I can tell him about the business, what I'm building, what I'm struggling with. And then he invariably says, there's this section of the code that's expiring this year. And I'm like, hang on, tell me more. You're about to save me some money. I like that. Okay, let's do it. I don't know this stuff. I don't want to know this stuff.
Yeah. Right. Well, no, and I think it's good because I always say everything you ever need to know about anything, you can get in a conversation. You just got to find the right conversation to have, right? So
For
you
sure.
just kind of proved my point right there with this whole story because
Absolutely.
I learn something new every single day. Every day I talk to somebody, I learn something new. I'm telling you, this morning I've talked to 3 people today, and I've learned like multiple things from. I had a guy tell me before on the call before you, we were talking about recharging your body. That as high performers, we tend to go, and we don't want to sit down. And he says, "What do you do in your phone when you have all your apps open on your phone? What happens? Your battery drains in your phone. You have to go charge your phone up, right?" And I'm like, dude, that's my phone all day long because apparently I ain't closing apps down because the damn thing's always dead. I got to go plug it in. I said, but that's so good because now I'm going to remember every time I got to plug that phone, I'm going to be like, Jennifer, do you need to recharge? Have you been going hard and you need to stop for a minute? See, it's going to make me think about that now.
Sure.
Learn something new every day.
That's good.
For
That's good. I
people,
like
so-
that. That is
yeah,
very
it's
good.
I told him, I said, I had a gal on one time we were talking about, you'll appreciate this from sales perspective because she's a marketing person. And she said, so often we go into sales, we offer people a stapler when they need a sandwich.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is so good. So I call her the stapler. I'm like, she is forever going to be the stapler sandwich girl because I'm a storyteller and that's how people remember stories, And so she told that and I was like, that is so good. So she put something up the other day. I'm like, there you are, stapler sandwich girl.
That's right.
Yes.
I love it.
good.
That's good.
I love
That's a good one.
So you said like a lot of, I mean, this has been good. I didn't even feel like I've had to ask you questions because you covered a lot of stuff here. And so when you're working with these clients, is there any kind of particular, I guess maybe, because let's talk about traits like personality types and stuff, because obviously some people are going to be easier to work with than others, right? You kind of mentioned that. Some people come in, they're going to come in, they're going to be like, this is how it is, this is how I see it. And you're basically giving them that next set of eyes to say, here's another way to this. But do you find that there is a certain type of leader or individual that works? I mean, can grasp onto this quicker than say somebody else coming into this?
That's a great question and not one that people ask a lot of, but I don't know that there is, with the only caveat being so long as they have experienced some kind of, I guess I'll just call it pain generally.
Okay.
Usually that's the motivator that gets people, whether it's the pain of missing all the little league games or the pain of just being like at wit's end. Usually that's the common denominator that gets somebody just willing to take a look.
Right.
But then as far as the type of person or personality or even the role or the business, it's not. It doesn't, like, it's so wide open that way. The reason I like to go with tradesmen and service-based businesses is because I grew up in that. in
Yeah,
that world.
you're familiar with it. Yeah.
Yeah, my brothers were all in the trades, from drywall, plumbing, electrical, finished carpentry, framers, like the whole world just is. I'm familiar with it. I went to parties when I was way too young and shouldn't have been going to parties with those guys, and so it's just
You
it's
just
just
grew
part of,
up in that
yeah,
space, it
yeah.
inside out.
So they
That's how I
took me
feel
to all
about
the parties, but they'd say, "Don't you work in this space? Go
Yeah,
use your head, not your body." And so I
right.
have this kind of weird balance between those feel like my people, and yet I walked the line right next to those to where I didn't swing the hammer or work on
Yeah.
them, just in that business, but right beside that business. So that's why I like working with them. Um, but I've also worked with a lot of software developers and programmers and these
Okay.
agencies,
Yeah.
service-based models, right? It's the same. The problems are the same. They start
Yes.
with the
Yes.
skill, they
Yes.
reach a point, and so there's so many similarities there where, and I've tested it with dozens and maybe even hundreds by now of different companies where if we just start hiring for the right role first, we go through a process of delegation, building
Yep.
some systems, learning that, then the owner gets a little bit more experience with that process and realizes, wait a minute, my time is worth a little bit more, so I shouldn't be doing that stuff. This paradigm begins to shift. And then with
Yeah.
that shift comes more, it's almost like an appetite. Like they get more of an appetite for, now I
Yeah.
want to delegate more, and now I want to get better. But in the beginning, it's usually just, holy shit, what do I do? I don't,
They're panicking because they need to
yeah,
do something. Yeah. Well, and I'm
yeah,
sure it's like everything. I mean, sometimes, having another set of eyes come in on something, I think gives sort of that reassurance, right? It gives a little bit of that, hey, I've done this, I've been here, so I'm
yeah,
showing you this, but yes, I imagine. I mean, it's like everything. I mean, when I've worked with clients in the coaching space, a little bit different, but I've worked with clients in a coaching space. A lot of them are coming for a pain point of some sort. And it's kind of the same thing. I think the only time people really ever seek change is when they get in the hard place and
yeah,
realize
yeah.
I'm pinned against a wall. I got to do something. But you mentioned the
What?
problems being kind of universal. And I would agree. I had a mentor I worked with. I've had a lot of mentors, but one of my mentors I worked with for a couple years, he had built a brick and mortar and then went to the digital space. But he used to always say that which we think is most personal is universal. Meaning the problems are typically always the same. We think they're personal, but really
Yeah,
the universal themes are all the same, right?
yeah,
Their
yeah.
little nuances in the situations are different. And so it's funny because like when I've worked with people before, it's like they'll tell me something. I'm like, okay, this seems so, I don't want to say trivial because it's huge to them, but I'm looking at it and going, I don't understand why this is so hard. Like you just got to let this thing go and do this,
Yeah,
but you
yeah.
can't. They have to be ready to receive that and they have to be open to that. And I think I would imagine by the time they're coming to see you, they're at a place where they're like, hey, help, I need you to show me the next step kind of thing.
Well, it's all of the above, and not everybody falls into that case. We have, I try. So my goal is to reach a lot more people because I
Yeah.
realized in some of the challenges that I've gone through, and you said, we don't really look for change unless we felt that pain. I mean, I didn't go to
Right.
rehab because I was a saint. I went because I was in jail. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Right. You
I
didn't
was
want to go be
compelled.
there.
Yeah, I was compelled to go, and just by the grace of God was at that point where I knew I didn't have any other options. So
Yeah.
sometimes that's what it takes. But there's a lot of people. I mean, we have thousands of followers over on Instagram and on YouTube where we give all this stuff away, like all of the playbooks, the processes,
Yeah.
even my internal documents. I mean, I will share any of those with people that are going through this because
Yeah.
I just feel like there's so much stuff that if there are these blocks, right? And that the tree cutter or the
Yeah.
plumber, the HVAC operator, they're dealing with so many things. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of an unlock, like one system that gives them 5 hours back in a week
Right.
that's enough breathing room where they're like, oh,
They
I
can't
get it
unsee what
now.
they see at that
Yeah.
point.
But if
Yeah.
you're trapped in that, so that's where I feel like kind of like my purpose now is just to try to give as many. So I like to tell stories about all the clients I've worked with, about
Yeah.
the different businesses, about everything. so that if it resonates with anybody out there, come find me and if I've got a playbook for how to get that accountant, for instance, those 4 calls on the calendar, I got a playbook for that. It's a Google Doc. It's 2 pages. It's no big deal. You may not know how to find the right accountant. I have a playbook for that. Come and get, I'll
Very
give that too,
cool.
because there's ways I've hired the wrong ones. I've hired the wrong lawyers.
Yeah.
It's cost me millions of dollars.
Right.
I've gone through years of litigation. Like, I don't want that for anybody. If you
Yeah.
know how to
Did you
get,
know how it felt?
yeah, man, I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's how I feel about health, the wellness stuff, because that's kind of my space because of I got diagnosed with a rare nerve condition, and it's like in
Oh,
hindsight, right? Like you look back and you go, I don't want anybody to ever have to do that. So if there are things that you can be aware of, and it's not just about diet and exercise, it's about all this stuff we're talking about here too.
okay.
It's
Yeah.
the stress of the things
Yeah.
that we do
Yeah.
in our life and belief
Yep.
systems and all of that. But it's the same thing that all of the work that I do is because it's not, I don't get on the podcast just because I like a podcast. I do like a podcast. There is a method to the madness, and there is a purpose for all the work that I
Yeah.
do. But I tell people it's always about like if I can help somebody make a different choice in their life. So it
Sure.
really
Yeah.
it really aligns with what you're saying because I'm talking to a lot of business owners. I network in this space. I am a business owner. And so, and as a high achiever and a slave driver of myself, I totally get it, and
Yep.
all of the conversations we've had today have been so great because they've all really aligned into this whole nervous system and belief systems. And we're overworking and high performance, which, as we know, are a lot of business owners. So
Totally.
it's
Yeah.
great. What would you say? What would you say to your younger self now?
Ooh. Um, to my younger self, it depends on how far back I go. Yes, there's a lot of things that I should tell myself. I think probably the main overarching thing is just be consistent and be patient. That
Mm,
there's a lot of things that I did that I just wanted a result right now. And
yeah.
it wasn't until I'd gone through a lot of really heavy chapters of life that I recognized I let go of some of that expectation for right now. And when I did
Yeah.
and got more focused, like more,
Yeah.
I learned to shut off some of those distractions that were pulling attention
Sure.
here and there. And then the results came faster than I even dared wish. Like it
Yeah.
was crazy. It was a paradox of sorts that I wanted it now. So I'd go here. My attention was
Yeah.
just spread all over the place. But when I just focused on something and I got a little more clear and I learned to say no to some of the distractions,
Mhm.
the results came faster than I could imagine. So
That's awesome.
consistency is amazing. That's
Yeah.
probably the main thing that my younger self needed a kick in the
Consistency.
pants
Yeah.
for.
Yeah, I think I would say that too. And be patient. Be
Yeah.
patient, right? Because
Yeah.
sometimes I think we get impatient. We want things to fall a certain way. And I think we should be impatient about getting ourselves out overworking all the time, right? Like do what you got to do to get your business right, doing all
Yeah,
that.
trust them to that end. Trust the process,
Yeah.
and if you don't have a process, then make that a part of your mission. Like find a process. And that's where what we've been talking about, I call our delegation priority pyramid. And it starts
Yeah.
with the foundation of, before you start stacking things, before you build a home or a structure, you don't
Right.
start at the roof, you don't start on
Right.
the walls, you start underground and you lay
Yeah.
that foundation. And that to me is some of those those back office things that give you some people help, or gives you people skills, and it gives you some processes and a beginning taste of how to build an SOP, a standard operating procedure. And then you trust that process and watch how fast that transition goes. So if that's
Good
helpful for
stuff.
anybody, like
Yeah.
I'd be happy to share. I mean, I have a little blueprint that
Okay.
kind of lays out how to do that. So
Sure.
come find me on Instagram. I'll send you our Google Doc that we use with all of our
Yeah.
clients. Just message me the word blueprint, and I'd be
Okay.
happy
Where
to
do they
share it
go
with you.
for like Instagram and all that? Is
Oh
it
yeah,
under your
it's
name or?
yeah.
Okay.
It's Justin Lund is. I think
Okay.
that's
I
our
see
handle,
him.
kind of across
Okay.
the YouTube,
Yeah.
Instagram, TikTok, all over there. But Instagram's easiest for me to get the messages, and I'm in the messages too. So if you have any questions about anything, I'm happy to. I mean, I get in there every day, so I'm in there.
Okay.
I love it. That's what I'm saying. I'm talking to the tree guy yesterday because it's just like he's stuck and
Yeah.
he feels like there's no way out. It's like, yeah, there is. There's,
You're
it's
like,
not.
I got this.
I got you.
I can
got
tell you,
you.
I just got to trust me. I could tell you what you need to
Yep.
do. I get
Yep.
it. I get it. I love it. Well, I'm going to follow you so I can keep up with what you got
Oh,
going
cool.
on. And this has been fun. And we'll make sure too that, you know, when we get the show notes all put together, we'll make sure we usually put something on the video. So for the people that want to actually see it on the video, and then of course they hear
Sure.
it, and then we got it in the main notes
Okay.
too. So hopefully people will find you on that front. So I have one more question I want to ask you. So what do you do for yourself outside of your business? What's your fun thing you like to do? Work out? You like to sport, or you like to, is there anything in particular you're into?
Yeah, I have. Well, I'm the dad to 4 kids, so I'm pretty busy with them. I've got 2
Okay.
adult kids, 2 still in the house. My middle child is a senior in high school, and he is on the baseball team, so I do a lot of
Okay.
baseball. During our
Gotcha.
fall season, we put 18,000 miles, I think, on the card just from
For sports, yeah.
August through December. And he and I were in the car just side by side for 20 hours a week. I mean, it was
Oh, how
unbelievable.
fun.
So
Yeah.
that was, there's not a lot of dads that can say they spent 20 hours a week next to their 18-year-old kid.
Yeah.
So that's
Put
kind of
yourself
cool.
in a position to be able to do
Yeah.
that, and that's a good
That was
thing.
cool. Yep.
That's a good thing. Well,
So
how
that keeps me
fun.
pretty busy. And I love working out and exercise. Well, I don't love it. Actually, I hate it, but I like the result. I like how it makes me
Yeah.
feel. That's been a transition in the last few years that I've got healthy and a little bit more fit.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, good. And I think these times that you get to spend with your kids are important too. Mine are all grown now too. So I don't, my last one's still here, but he's going to be 22 in May. So he's kind of,
Wow.
he's been, he was a chef for a while. So he was traveling for work, but now he's transitioning back into school. And so he's kind of having this little
Okay.
young transitional type. And I actually
Yep.
want him, I'm going to actually have to tell him to listen to this episode, because I think this might be a fun one for him to listen to.
Cool.
Because,
Yeah, I'd love to.
yeah,
And I
he's
have
the one-
a boy his age doing the same thing too.
Yep.
Worked in restaurants and
Mm.
now is getting ready to go back to school. And so yeah, I'd tell him to come find me on Instagram. I'll chat it
Yeah,
up with him.
it's awesome. That's awesome. Well, very cool.
Love
Well,
it.
this has been great. And Justin, I appreciate you jumping on here and sharing with our audience. And I hope
Yeah, thanks for
somebody
having
in
me.
here, you know, will reach out and at least follow you, keep up with you, what you're doing. You're doing great work.
I
I
love
think
it,
it's
yeah.
awesome. And congratulations on this whole transformation and continuing to inspire and all the things.
Thank you, Jennifer. You too. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, to our audience, we appreciate you. We love you. We hope you found this episode both inspiring and informative. Of course, follow Justin. And if you like the episode, do all the things. Hit the subscribe button, like, share, comment, so we can keep sharing all of this with you. And as I always say, in order to live the extraordinary, you must start, and every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, be kind to one another, and we will see you next time.